Over 1,700 new millionaires are created every single day in the US alone, and more than double that across the globe. They're people from all walks of life, most of them people just like you and I. So the big question is this: how are so many people who didn't inherit money or have any special advantages overcoming the odds and becoming millionaires? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jeff Lerner, and welcome to Millionaire Secrets. Welcome back to another episode of Millionaire Secrets. Excited to be with you yet again. If you're listening on the podcast, I appreciate your ears. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate your eyes and your ears. I'm here with, this is a doozy of a show. You know, I get a lot of amazing guests on this show, but it is not ever that I get to say I am here with my best friend from high school, who also happens to be a highly relevant and very cool guest for a show called Millionaire Secrets. He's my friend, Rob Lord, and I can't wait to tell you all about him and let him introduce himself too. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I think it might be important for us to talk about how we actually met at some point, but let me give you like the 15-
I thought that was what the whole episode was going to be about.
So 15-second intro about me is I'm a residential realtor, and I've developed a team model that's pretty unique. I've got some really powerhouse listing agents, which is sort of unusual. A lot of these teams are like this mega personality guy, and they've got these little minions running around. So we're doing things a little bit differently. And I think the thing, this is a little tease for what we're going to talk about, but I think the thing that made you want to actually do a podcast together is not because we're buddies. It's because there was so much similarities in your world and my world. And I think that we're accomplishing in completely different fields, like a very similar thing. So
yeah, exactly. And I am glad you stated that right up front. This is not some self-indulgent thing where Jeff is like, well, I'm like 50 episodes into my show, so I think it's time for me to just have my buddy on so we can like hang out and, you know, call it business. But no, we were having a really powerful conversation where, to your point, I think it dawned on both of us exactly what you said, that we are doing an ideologically similar thing in dramatically different fields, and we'll get into what that means. I think that the thing I want to say right up front to set the stage is, you know, a lot of the people I work with, or I say that I have on the show, are what I would call, you know, new economy business owners, new economy marketers. They're in like digital marketing. They do sales funnels. They do product launches. They're leveraging all this new technology to do businesses that have really only existed in the last 10, 15 years, maybe. You're in real estate. And I get real estate guys on a lot, but frankly, I don't think I've ever had a quote realtor on the show. I've had real estate investors.
Yeah.
And
I saw the guy a couple of weeks ago, I think, how to flip houses and that sort of thing. And that's amazing content. I actually ate that episode up. I loved it. But this is like, what I'm doing is what you think about, like with the guy that has the perm, or the, you know, lady who's used to teach Sunday school and now she's got the Bluetooth thing in her ear or whatever. So I'm straight up that, but we're attacking it in a, you know, new way that I think is pretty special.
Yeah. And I'm going to, you know, we're going to hit them hard right out of the gate to get their attention. You've been doing this less than 3 years. I mean, I remember when you started, right? It's less than 3 years.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. The only thing I had going for me going into it, that first year or whatever, is just a really, really tough work ethic from having owned a gym. I was a personal trainer, and I was a wannabe gym owner. I owned the little tiny facility, and I was always trying to position it up. So I was working like insane hours, getting up at 4:30. I'm not trying to exaggerate to make this story more interesting, but working 14 hours a day, you know, got a wife and 2 kids. Yeah, basically just really figured out how to grind. And that business is so competitive. Don't ever go into a brick and mortar gym business. If there's one person watching this that has a passion for fitness, do not do it. Call me. Call like Rob Lord Realty Group. Call my cell phone, and I will talk you out of it gladly.
That's yeah. I mean, we just saved a life right there. But yeah. So to your point, no previous experience, no existing database, no, you know, not even really previous sales experience, except that insofar as an entrepreneur and a business owner and a gym owner, you're constantly selling because that's just what business owners do. But in less than 3 years, you have built the fastest growing residential real estate team on the agent transaction side in a giant and booming real estate market, which is the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the fastest growing, from what I've seen, and I know Texas residential real estate reasonably well because I grew up there and I've done a lot of real estate investing down there. You're shattering land speed records for growth both personally as an agent, but also especially, like you said, building a team of, like you said, I love what you said. They're not just your little minions that kind of prop you up as the figurehead. These are independent agents that, leaning on your team model, they're doing the same thing. They're hitting 6 figures. They're having outlier levels of results in a year or two, 10 times faster than most real estate agents that even ever make those levels. So you're doing something. I use the term disruptive. It's certainly radical. It's certainly an outlier. And what I love about it is it's duplicatable. It's not just you. So maybe we can, now I've hopefully, built you up enough. Like, can we dig in and say, what are you doing and why is it working so well? Maybe that's too big a question, but let's start there anyway.
Okay. Well, I think the place to start with like why is it working so well is kind of back up for a second. And it's the same thing of why you're being so successful right now is that the first thing is just honesty. Like I met a guy I was getting a new sport coat the other day and I was like, this guy's a way better salesman than me. This guy's amazing. But I think, so it's not a sales talent. It's not a BS ability or whatever. I think the thing that's worked so well for me and is working for you is that we are brutally honest about our industry. So it's finding out like kind of the nasty hidden truth. So for my business, the nasty truth is that the people who are successful in so it's an 87% dropout. No, I'm sorry, 93% dropout rate in our business, 87% dropout rate. And then of the 13% that actually, keep their license active, 10% of them, we were talking about the math the other day. So it comes up to 77 people is actually making over 150 grand a year. So making like a decent, arguably good living. So if you consider 1 in 77 people, it's not like 1 in 77 people actually works hard or has a decent enough IQ to do this. Something is flawed. And I can tell you the dirty secret is that 1 in 77 is almost always someone that has a sphere, a database going into the business. And same deal in your world. You were talking about people who are marketers and they, you were on stage getting an award because you kicked butt. And the other people on stage with you also getting the award were people that already had a database built up.
Yeah, they came from MLM and they had teams of 5,000 to 10,000 people that they just sent one email to and won the award.
They had an 8% click-through rate and a 1% conversion, and boom, they got an award. And you're in there like thinking like, okay, what's really happening in this business? You're staying up all night, grinding on it, whatever, and you finally, you kind of, sounds cheesy, but you sort of crack the code. And that was me. So you said I've been in business for 3 years. The first year, I'm just like asking really tough questions for the people who are doing these seminars. So what these brokers do is they bring every warm body on. It's like people selling life insurance, whatever. They want everyone to come on. You may do a deal. You probably won't. Doesn't really cost them much to train people. So they bring every warm body in the room. And I'm sitting there grilling these people like, well, what do you mean this is how you build a database? Like, this doesn't make sense. You're saying that you call people in your phone and you post on Facebook? Like, if it was that easy, that doesn't make sense. I keep drilling down like, well, what's your system? What's your like duplicatable lead gen system? And no one will really tell you. And finally, I start annoying people enough. They're like, well, we have a dialer. And my team, and because I'm thinking like, I'm aggressive. I'm very competitive. I want to build a team of agents. I want to be really successful. I'm like, well, what are these teams these people are doing? And the team is they get a dialer or they're buying Zillow leads. Dialer means they've got an automated calling system. They'll make people that are desperate for leads come in, sit on the phone literally 8 hours a day, and they'll just auto dial, circle prospect, they call it, different neighborhoods. Hey, Miss Smith, do you want to know how the market is? Click, hey, and it's just insane. But anyway, so they're basically running people ragged with that and with bad buyer leads. And these agents, I always like to tell people there's so many different ways, and you agree with this too. There's so many ways to make 50 grand a year, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of ways out there to be mediocre. And like, I'm not pushing that. You're not pushing that. But I think a lot of our sort of competition, that's what they're pushing. And it's kind of gross when you really dig down deep and figure it out, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially, well, I mean, yes, to your point. Yeah. There are a lot of people pushing that. But it's weird because that's what they're pushing, but that's not actually what they're selling. They're selling this vague, make your dreams come true language that's not granular and not specific because it can't get specific, because if it did, it would be dishonest and, they get like in trouble.
Yeah.
So they're just like, well, listen, we're going to supply, and they use language that's soft and round and fuzzy and hard to pin down. Like you said, listen, we're going to supply you with leads and we're going to give you automated, phone system, and you're going to have scripts and you're going to have an unlimited supply of people to call, and they're coming off the hottest websites. And these are people that are hot. I mean, they just looked up a listing and they are hot. They want to buy, and you're going to sell them. And like, none of that means anything. You wash all that out, you squeeze the water out of the rag. And like you say, it's maybe $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And these people are trying to support a family.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're desperate, and it's really sad. I mean, and that's why I'm not just kind of passionate about it because I have a team and I want to be successful. It's really gross. And something we haven't even talked about, but I would bet big money that you have a similar motivation to me at this point because of what you're doing and kind of pulling back the curtain and helping people, like authentically helping them and showing them that internet marketing works. To me, I mean, it's super cool now that I've actually had some success and I can shop for new cars and not have to look at the prices on the menu and that kind of thing.
Right.
That's all like a relief, and it's awesome because I've been broke a long time as an adult. It was horrible. But anyway, I think besides all that, probably the most rewarding thing for both of us is taking someone who's a good person, they want to work hard, and they just haven't been pointed in the right direction yet, and then watching them bloom where they're making $200,000 a year or whatever. And it's not about the money, and it sounds tacky to say specific numbers, but seeing someone that can actually like take their kid on vacation or buy a house and pay their mortgage and have like legitimate success. I think I love that. Like, that's what gets me going and fired up.
Yeah, it does. And just, there's so much value and like emotional healing that happens when you just help people realize that they're not crazy, they're not worthless, they're not losers, and that it wasn't their fault, so to speak. And I'm not one to say like, oh, well, take away personal responsibility. But like, to your point, the residential real estate model, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not just taking your word for it because I'm your friend. Like, I've been around a lot of residential real estate. I was married to a residential realtor at one point. Like, it's so true what you're saying. It's built almost on like the top producers are built on like little sweatshops.
Oh yeah.
Of high churn, high turnover, bring them in, wear them out, kick them out. I like you say, 87% dropout in what's that, in the first year or 2 years or something?
Well, Texas is 2 years when you have to renew your license. They don't bother. And a lot of people just keep their license just because they want to say that they have.
And all they've done is create a lot of leads to fill the database of their team leader, right? In that scenario.
The team leaders, I've watched masterminds where these guys are kind of pulling back the curtain among each other, and they all kind of, there's a general consensus that it's essentially about an 18-month shelf life before this person realized like, oh, if I go get a job as a manager at Starbucks, I could make $45,000 a year, $50,000 a year, plus I have benefits, plus I have normal set hours. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
So they know it's about a year and a half before they lose that person. And then not to, if someone's watching this and actually thinking about a career in real estate, the other, group of people that typically make it, just so you can kind of compartmentalize this stuff, is the wealthy empty nesters. So that's someone that you can actually start slowly and build a real business legitimately with the tools they give you. But it's such a rare, weird thing. Your kids are graduating high school, and so all the peers that you're friends with, your kids' parents, friends, they're about to downsize. So you live in the burbs. You've got a 4,000 square foot house with a media room no one's been in 7 years. And then they already know, like, and trust you. So you've got 100 people, maybe 50 people in your database who know, like, and trust you, and a third of them are about to list their house. So that's back to the stereotypical realtor we were joking about. So that's where they get some deals. And then the other person where you're like, the younger people, you're looking on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, look how many transactions this person's doing. A lot of times it's someone whose uncle or friend or whoever is an investor. and they're just saying like, hey, I need to buy one property a month and I want half of the commission back at closing or something. And basically you just go around, write contracts for me. So,
man, it's internet marketing. It's funny. I mean, it's different, but it's the same because it almost is. It's almost like this Illuminati conspiracy kind of thing, right? I mean, because on the internet, the problem is it's a little different. I think it's couched differently. On the internet, it's basically just sold as it's going to be easy because the internet itself lends itself to conversations about speed, automation, like the software and the websites and the offers and the commissions. Like it all happens like just, a mousetrap that you don't have to touch your hands to. Whereas real estate, it's almost like, I guess they're almost saying the same thing. Like we're going to remove the human element from success and we're going to obscure the fact that success was really predicated on already having a large group of people that would trust you enough to list their house with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. So you're a year in, you figured this out.
So I'll tell you like the quick version of my story. Cause I know a lot of people watching this are not actually realtors or they don't want to be a realtor, but just to make it really short and sweet, I'm struggling. I'm like, okay, I did figure out, and this is true for a lot of businesses. So this is a good takeaway. For a lot of things, you've got to be able to build a database. You've got to be able to nurture your database, and then you've got to fulfill it. You've got to, so my business, the fulfillment's like doing the contracts and looking at houses, ideally taking listings. That's not that hard. So as long as you're paying attention and you want to learn, like you can knock off that third thing. Nurturing the database it's a lot of people think it sucks, but it's the necessary evil. If you want to be successful, you've got to stay in contact with those people, and it can be automated. That's where technology steps in.
Right.
At least. And then the first part, that's the holy grail. That's what I figured out kind of in that second year or the end of my first year is like, crap, like I've got to figure out a way to build a database. My dad wasn't the mayor. Like, how am I going to possibly do this? I got to feed my family. And I would always drill down. I went out to coffee with some girl or some 28-year-old mom, and she had just done 3 closings. I'm like, what is going on? How come I don't have 3 closings? I'm smart. I'm working hard. And I'm like, so what did you do before this? And she's like, oh, well, I was and they always are very dismissive of it. They don't want to tell you. Same thing in your world. And I had to drill down. I remember specifically with her, I was like, so what did you do? And she's like, well, I was a youth minister. I was like, oh, how big was the church? And she's like, 10,000 members. And so what were you doing? Well, I was the head youth minister and I interacted with this. And I'm thinking like, the college student ministry for the last 10 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, she has thousands of people that have gone through there that are now first-time home buyers.
Yeah. And
they remember her as this like awesome moral authority figure. And no, I'm not knocking her. It's super cool. But it's like the guy selling supplements. And they're like, buy my protein powder so I can buy more steroids or something. It's like, well, like you're not telling me where you're really getting this from.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's such a good analogy. Yeah. The juice guy at the supplement store was like, this whey protein is laced with additional branch chain amino acids that really give you that pump. And meanwhile, he's in the back injecting himself in the butt with like Sustanon.
We're going to have to really work hard not to go off on a fitness diatribe on this.
I know. Okay. So that's good. Let's allow ourselves this moment. So Rob and I, we met in, do you want to say it or should I say it?
Well, the year?
No, we met in driver's ed. That's where I was going with it. Yeah. So we met in driver's ed. We were definitely like the two, I don't know, were we the biggest cut-ups in driver's ed? There were like some other kind of miscreant people in there.
We've always been horrible. And Jeff and I actually took a class together in college that resulted in me like a fit of mania running through a door and knocking the glass out of it. I don't know if you remember.
I don't remember that.
And we would do stuff like this in class, like horrible students. I'll tell you, the only reason Jeff did okay in school is he's got such a you're not going to like me saying this, but such a high IQ. But like we were the worst students ever. Horrible.
So okay, and let's. I mean, yeah, straight up, I dispute none of what Rob just said. And I apologize for none of it. And I'm grateful for all of it because there is something contrarian clearly about what we're doing now. in our own way, we're cutting up in class. You're cutting up in the real estate class where they're saying, shh, don't tell anyone. Maybe you can be a part of this club if you leverage it, but don't expose it. And for me, I mean, my number one core value of my company is about doing really, really hard things and being excited to do it. Mm-hmm. That is the opposite of most of the internet marketing, business education training. That's like, man, there's so much leverage and automation and systems, and it's fast and it's easy. In 30 minutes a day, you can be a millionaire. And I'm like, get ready to go to Buds, man. This is hell week, and only it lasts a year before you start to get decent at it. Like we're both, what's the word? Disrupting class.
Let me just give not to bring it just about me, but just a specific example that touches on what you just said. Everyone wants to talk about tech or whatever. It's the most overused thing ever. And the ironic thing is, I think our team has the best tech, but it's just using things that's already out there. Tools already exist. Mm-hmm. Just better. But anyway, talking about doing the hard thing. The reason I'm being really successful right now is because I'm not taking much of my agents' commissions, first of all. So they like it and they want to stay with me. But it's because I'm getting like well-dressed, well-spoken, articulate, educated people who drive nice cars, all those dumb things you have to have in real estate to look the part. But I have convinced them, this is where my good sales comes in. Somehow I've convinced them to do the hard stuff. So I just got off the phone with an agent who was in literally I'm going to toot her horn for a second. She's 8 months pregnant, literally. It's 100 degrees outside. And she was just now literally walking around Highland Park, talking to people who rent homes in that amazing Highland Park is like, every town's got one where it's like it's like the highest rated public school and all the mansions that were built in the 40s and some new construction. Everything's cool and eclectic or whatever. So in Dallas, that's Highland Park.
Right.
She was out there in 100-degree weather, literally 100 degrees, 8 months pregnant, knocking on people's doors who were paying, $6,000 a month or more to rent in that neighborhood, because that's how she gets leads in that little market. That's not like cool tech or disruptive really, but man, that is like, and they buy into it because they know how authentic and real I'm being when I'm talking about it. And anyway, that's a little taste.
Yeah. I love that, man. It is kind of funny. Like we were best friends in high school. We've kind of gone on our separate paths. We've always stayed in touch, but it's like fundamentally there was a like-mindedness. It was such a liability for so long. Like we'd get bad grades, or we'd get in trouble, or we'd get sent to the principal, or we'd drop. I think didn't we both drop out? I dropped out of high school. Didn't you drop out of high school somehow? Or did you graduate?
I graduated because I remember when I played a little bit of college football. I walked on the University of Houston football team, and you had to have a 2.0 GPA to be eligible. And I went back because I never cared about my GPA. And somehow Texas Tech will let you in. But anyway, I got it. I was into tech just to appease people, to get that ridiculous piece of paper that no one actually cares about. But I went to U of H, got myself into school there somehow, walked on. But my GPA was 1.7. And they had to drop a couple of my classes in order to make it 2.0 to make me eligible to play football.
So they dropped your classes for you.
They had to kind of organize it. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, Jeff and I are decently smart people with just a disclaimer. We have good SAT scores. But yeah, we've always been had this idea that there's something bigger, better waiting for us out there, and been like, we're chomping at the bit. And not to reminisce too much about us, but the last thing I wanted to say is I had forgotten about this, but you reminded me the other day talking about how we were kind of different and didn't really fit in, but we wanted to be cool and hang out with the good looking girls and all that. Jeff reminded me that we would fill up our Coors Light bottles with water. And when we'd go out, like, because we're sitting there thinking like, okay, we're going to be like, Jeff wanted to be a college athlete for this little phase, and he trained his butt off. And we always had like this weird thing where we actually wanted to be in bed by 1 o'clock in the morning and drink water instead of alcohol, or, somehow we were going to be great. We just didn't know how. So
right.
Anyway.
We thought it was good. There was a time we thought it was going to be football. I thought it was going to be music for a while. You thought it was going to be revolutionizing fitness for a while. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. I mean, in a way, in the benefit of hindsight, you could go back to those two high school kids and later college kids standing at the party holding beer bottles that are full of water. because we don't want to harm our body. And also I remember part of it too, was we wanted to force ourselves to have as much fun. I mean, maybe force isn't the right word, but we wanted to allow ourselves to actually have as much fun as all the drunk people without needing to drink.
Well, I think I don't think it's that like high level. I think it's that we were raging heteros that would just wanted to like see what was going on between 11 and midnight.
Okay, hold on. Now you I probably got to explain the term hetero. That was just like our flippant colloquial label that we applied to ourselves about just like wanting to go out and chat up girls and hang out. And we were like, I'm going to be a huge hetero tonight. Yeah. I feel like in the modern world, that's like maybe such a polarizing thing. I have to explain it or something. Maybe I'm insecure.
We're just ahead of our time with appropriate labels.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go with that. So anyway, you fast forward now and it's just so cool, man. Like it's cool because you're my friend. But again, like I wasn't like, oh, I need to have my friend on my show. I mean, real estate's a big industry. I mean, residential real estate is there's like 2 million active real estate licenses in the country or something like that.
I don't remember the number, but it's millions.
Millions, yeah. And it literally is like a giant, I don't know, fraternal order of like, don't ask, don't tell. It's like all built. It's like the mafia. It's like all built on this culture of what you described.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it's not like you're tearing it up in like, you know, I don't know what a small town would be like, you know, Chattanooga, Tennessee or something. It's freaking Dallas.
Yeah. This is actually I believe this is a test market when they have new models like Zillow wants to start doing iBuyers and flip houses and Redfin. I want to say Redfin started here. This is one of their first markets and that whole thing. And all those kind of typically when people say disruptor in residential real estate, what they're talking about, some kind of discounted, you know, somehow discounting the commissions. But the beautiful thing is, just go off on that for a second, that's never happening. It's never going to completely take a foothold because you don't want to have someone who wants to work for $15 an hour representing you on a $500,000 transaction. You want someone who is with it enough. I mean, this is going to sound like, I don't know, it's trivializing it sort of, but you want someone in general who's capable of making $200,000 or $300,000 a year to represent you when you're doing the most expensive financial transaction of your life. You want someone who's smart, good, sophisticated, and successful.
Yeah, I actually don't think that trivializes it at all. I love that, you know, frankly, we're being blunt enough to just say that. It's like what I always say, like, if you want to have a great life, you have to be great.
Yeah.
There's no shortcut around it. Like, if you don't have the life you want, it's a reflection of the value that you've provided to the market. I mean, it's little things like the books you read, or if you read books, or the language you use, the words you use, the way you hold eye contacts, your physical posture. Like, we want to live in this world that I think there's a sort of a general ethos in the world of wanting to like reduce human variation so that it's like more fair. It's not fair. Fairness itself wouldn't be fair because it would penalize people that are better. Mm-hmm. So if you want a better life, you know, Jim Rohn said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact is, you and I know this, especially you, but now me, because of real estate, is 99% of people out there aren't willing to do work consistently. They're not willing to do mundane stuff. So if someone called me or they called you and they said, and you love to help people, it's not even about a coaching thing or anything. If someone said, Jeff, please tell me how to time block so next year I can be supporting my family and buy a better house or whatever their dream is, or support my ministry or something, you know, great. You would tell them like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to, you know, you got a laptop, you know how to smile or whatever it is, like, here's your schedule. The hard part is actually sticking with it after day 2 or 3 or 4 or week 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's not you know, here's the thing. It's like, it's just really hard. Like every damn morning comes so early, but somehow I think the people, and you know, I have the benefit of, I've done, like I said, this is like episode number 50 or 55. I don't know. I only see what's published, and there's like 20 that are still in in editing. But I'm on episode 50 or 60. So I can say now as a general formula, the people that I have on my show that are really, really, call them outliers of success. I haven't had one person on my show that got lucky. I haven't had one person on my show that, it leveraged nepotism. I mean, obviously you use what you have, but they weren't gifted. They're all fanatical about doing things that, like you say, a lot of people, I don't know what the data is, if it's the majority or the minority or the plurality or the what, but I know that there are a lot of people that just won't get up that early. They won't be that regimented. They won't be that disciplined. They won't say no to 98% of the crap that most people say yes to, like video games and Sports Center and, dumb sitcoms and, getting embroiled in arguments with their wife that are or their husband that are unproductive and lead nowhere and just drain their energy and like not eating crappy food. And it's just like 100 little micro decisions every single day that ultimately determine whether you have it or not. And I don't know, man, it's just hard. That's why it's our first core value. And so you talk about real estate. I mean, your model, just to be clear, you haven't shortcutted knocking doors.
No, so our secret is finding, like I said, articulate, nice looking people who are put together that want to work.
Well, that's not fair. I want to be 400 pounds. I want to have splotches of facial hair on parts of my body that aren't even supposed to have hair. And I don't want to have to bathe very often. And I still want to get rich, man. What about me?
In this business, and I'm sure if you're using your face, you have to be put together. This is like my worst dress outfit ever, but like you've got to be put together. You need to be someone that people like genuinely want to hang out with. Mm-hmm. You've got the what's the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So you've got to be personally put together. You've got to look the part, talk the part, be articulate, know the market. Same thing for your business. You've got to your disciples have to know what they're pushing or selling backwards and forwards. But also, just before I forget, that how to win friends and influence people, get people to tell you their story. People love to talk about themselves. So anytime you're in sales, I mean, it might be different if you're selling a $5 widget across the entire internet, but if you're selling a high ticket item and you're actually conversing with someone, people love to talk about themselves. Get people to tell you their story. And I think another reason I've been successful, and I would bet money you're like this, and we talked about my dad who was a self-made man, was very successful, was like this, is be genuinely interested in people. Have a real curiosity about what makes them tick, what made them successful. Get people to tell you their story, and you'll find like you can develop, like that's one of the secrets I think for building your database.
I think you just beautifully articulated why all the people who told me that starting a podcast was a waste of time were dead wrong. People, why would I get someone on my show who's maybe at a whole other level from where I am? I have the creator of Bulletproof Coffee, for example, coming on my show in the next few weeks. There is no conversation I could think of to have with his assistant or secretary or receptionist or whatever. I could call up his office and be like, I need to talk to Dave. This is Jeff Lerner. I have so much value to offer. Like, it's going to be such a win. Let me talk to Dave. There's nothing I could come up with to call probably, unless it was like, I've got his daughter hostage or something. But I invited him to come on my show so that I can talk. I can invite him to talk about himself and genuinely be interested in what he has to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he's in my network, knock on wood, he'll be in my network. Like, you want to expand, and your results in life are always just a function of your effort multiplied times either your skills and or your network.
And you know what? I think a lot of people that hear you saying that, they'll think that, or when I'll go knock on some millionaire's door. I got a almost $2 million listing last year as I was figuring out my little system. Super nervous. Like, it's okay for you to be nervous when you're calling a Bulletproof Coffee guy. I think it's normal. It'd be weird if you're not, or people probably think Jeff gets up at 4:30 in the morning and works out, but that's just his weird thing. He doesn't need that much sleep or whatever. That's all not true. Like, I get extremely nervous when I'm doing something that's out of my comfort zone. Like, if you're not getting out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself like that, it's the consistent drudgery, the boring stuff that makes champions. And then you combine that with well, first of all, some self-awareness, talking about how you look and talk and act and present yourself, but some self-awareness, the ability to do that kind of drudgery, monotonous stuff every day, time block and stick with it. And then getting outside of your comfort zone and talking to people that, you feel nervous about reaching out to. That's what it takes to be wildly successful.
I remember, to your point, and yes, I totally agree with what you said just now. The fact that the fear, the discomfort never really goes away. I wish, I go live almost every day. I create at this point between interviews, topical YouTube videos, YouTube mashup videos, live streams across multiple platforms. I'm literally creating, 100 pieces of content a month.
Yeah.
First of all, it's exhausting. It's not like, oh, he's just a guy that likes to talk. I'm actually an introvert. You knew me for long periods of my life. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I practiced piano for 10 hours a day. There were months where maybe you and my parents were the only person I talked to, or only people I talked to. And this isn't natural for me. I've fallen in love with it because I love who it forces me to become.
Yeah.
Not because it was easy, comfortable, or even initially very fun. But I've also, there's a lot of people that go out to say, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Yeah. I'm going to start a Facebook group or whatever. I've probably done this something like this 2,000 times. Maybe that's an exact, over 1,000 times in 2 years. And you do it because it's like you were talking about going out in 100-degree heat, 8 months pregnant, knocking doors. You don't do it because it's fun. You do it because of if you have the confidence to know that it's going to lead to a predictable result, and if you like what it pulls out of you that makes you better.
Yeah.
What were you talking about right before that? I want to just move on, but I had a thread. I don't want to lose it.
I can't remember, and it's because it's 5:00 in the afternoon where we are, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I've got a photo shoot tomorrow, and I haven't been practicing what I preach about diet, and I've had like 4 smoothies to eat for the past 3 days.
That's awesome.
But somehow I'm excited to be here, and I'm like a little manic, which is the exact opposite of how I should feel right now. But
well, I know what I was gonna say. I wish that there was like somebody that could take a picture of me like a minute before I go live every single time. Because I basically am like, that's what I look like. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I'm getting the weird flutters in my body. Somebody's going to make fun of me. Yeah. I'm finally going to be exposed for the fool that I am. I pulled it off 100 times, 500 times, whatever, but this is the one time it's going to show that I actually don't know what the hell I'm talking about. The human mind is insane about telling you to stay inside. Don't bump into the bear in the woods. Don't get struck by lightning. There's danger out there. Just stay in.
And let's since I think this is something important we should talk about. You and I, we went to, this is not unique to us, but let's talk about it, our experience. We went to a really cliquey high school. And I think there was some really deep-seated stuff because it's like this weird hierarchy and are you in the cool crowd? Are you not in the cool crowd? And I think, everyone's got their own deal they went through back in high school in those developmental years. But I think that maybe especially with us, but I think with most people, they're going to connect with this, is you get this weird insecurity about putting yourself out there, and what are people going to
do? Oh, yeah.
We spent 7, 8 years, 9 years at this private school we went to, trying to find out or trying to establish a hierarchy and not embarrass ourselves and everything. And man, once I remember when you got over the hump, or maybe it was something different, but the thing that I knew you were going to make it doing this, as far as putting yourself out there, was when you went on your rant in your car. You were I don't know if you were autopiloting in your Tesla or whatever, but you got this cool car, you got a nice life, and things are going well, but you were like, F it. I am going to just let it all hang out. And something clicked where you stopped holding back. And I think a lot of people have that. I still have it when I'm on video or putting myself out there. So real estate, whatever, if you're a marketer and you're putting your picture on the internet, your video online, I think there's so many people that have a hesitation. So, and this is not unique to me, what you and I are preaching. Gary Vee, all these gurus are preaching the same stuff. But my gosh, like listen to me and Jeff chime in about that. Like forget about what anyone thinks. And the cool thing is the icing on the cake is they're going to think you're so much braver than them subconsciously or consciously because you're willing to do it. Automatically, you're getting cool points in their head because you're willing to put yourself out there and they're not, and they know it.
Yeah. And there's a catharsis, like very spiritual, at least for me, it felt very spiritual moment when you realize it's not polished yet and the work is never done, but I'm finally giving myself permission to be unapologetically myself, regardless of what people think. And it's like, and I got to imagine, I mean, as we've established, we were both huge heteros growing up, but I got to imagine that's what it would be like to come out of the closet as a homosexual, like, or just giving yourself permission to be okay as yourself.
Yeah. Be authentic. And the funny thing is when you're not, a lot of people, you can tell when they're not authentic on YouTube or on their little platform or whatever. And it's so cringy.
It is. It's so
if you don't like the way you look, well, either get over it or do something about it.
Yeah. Or the way you speak or the skills you have. I mean, for a lot of people, there's a massive insecurity around their skill set. And I deal with a lot, with online entrepreneurs in general. There's all these people that like, man, I could make millions of dollars if I was just better at computers.
Oh my gosh.
What does that mean? Get better at computers. I think as adults, so often we think of learning as this thing that ended when we either graduated from high school or college. It's like, I feel like you spend those years of your life in high school or college just kind of maybe hopefully developing some habits.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally it. It's like maybe you develop some habits. Like I study.
I want you to tell me a story. Tell me a story about someone, because I'm thinking about real estate terms, but I want to hear about someone who they had the drive and the baseline intelligence to do it and the work ethic that had that objection in their head, but you coached them through it and then they were successful. And by the way, as people are watching this is how Jeff and I really talk. This is not us like hamming up or being more entrepreneurial or whatever for this. This is the stuff we talk about. But I've never heard like a good story, and I want to hear about that. Someone who didn't have the tech skills going into it, but you're like, no, man, just follow. The big deal in this stuff is follow the system. You've got the blueprint, follow it. So tell me about.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that probably the best examples of that, and admittedly, I'm not really directly involved in hands-on coaching anymore. I mean, Entra's had 42,000 students now or something. So like I say that with absolute humility and blessedness. Like I get to just be the pastor basically. Right. And pastor's not even a great word. I get to just be, I guess like the evangelist, the televangelist, but here's where I see it a lot. So one of our business models that we teach is about starting a digital agency where you actually provide digital marketing services to other businesses. And, I did that for 6 years. I had an agency called Zerly and we scaled it pretty big. And that's frankly, prior to Entre, that was probably my biggest, hit. My biggest success story was growing that company and selling it. And we got on the Inc. 5000 and all this stuff. But I tell people, I'm like, you don't have to have a big office and a big staff and a big team to do, provide marketing services to businesses. I mean, for example, you, Rob, don't you have a girl that helps you with your digital marketing stuff for your real estate team who she's works from home and she's smart and she makes really good money, but she's not she doesn't have like a big company, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I try to show that business model to people as a possibility for their life. I'm like, look, you want to, you're 25 years old and you want to travel the world and make money from your laptop. Great. Run Facebook ads for businesses, and people are like, I could never see myself. I mean, it's one thing for me to try to learn these skills for myself, but for me to sell myself as a purveyor and practitioner of these skills for businesses, no. Like it's so far beyond.
That's so frustrating for you too.
Well, I mean, it is. And what I try to do is tell them, like, the only difference between being able to help somebody do a thing and being right where they are, where you don't know how to do the thing, is just learning how to do the thing.
Yeah, just run some Facebook ads.
Yeah. And so like when I started my agency, I was an affiliate marketer. And so I had comfort with digital marketing, but I didn't have relevant expertise to like getting people to download a coupon to go redeem it at a restaurant for a free milkshake. Like that's a whole different set of skills than affiliate marketing, but I had the comfort and I had the basic familiarity with how to navigate systems. And so I basically went on, I think it was SEO Moz. It was just a website, SEO Moz, right? I just went on there and started reading like, how does Google rank local businesses? And I probably studied for a day. And then I started calling local businesses and saying, I can help you get better placement on the map.
So awesome.
And by the way, in 6 years, we serviced personally over 10,000 small businesses. We did fulfillment for 20,000 more. In total, we provided services of some sort for over 30,000 businesses and did $30 million in sales.
Yeah.
Because I spent one day reading the blog at SEO Moz and started calling businesses.
Yeah. I think it's another good example of how underestimate how 99%.
And I've got a guy right now in our mastermind who he does plumbing equipment sales. And so he's a smart guy. Like he's pretty naturally gregarious, but he's actually also kind of like us. He's got like a weird quirky side. He's like, well, I never really fitted in. I always wanted to do more kind of thing. But he started out wanting to do affiliate marketing in the survival niche. Like he's like, I want to help. He's not like a full-on prepper, but he's got like food storage and he, owns some Bitcoin in case the dollar collapses and whatever. And he's like, I want to sell these products because I'm interested in it. But he found that structurally that niche it's not a really powerful business model structurally. It's like you got to have a really high volume and high quantity, low transaction value model to do it. So it just takes so long to build that kind of awareness. So I'm like, dude, you sell plumbing equipment, man. Hundreds of small business service providers that are, plumbers are highly dependent on the Google local search rank to generate phone calls, right? I'm like, dude, why don't you just take a few of these skills and learn, kind of do what I did and start calling plumbers? And he fought me on it for about 2 weeks. And now he's got he's finally got the traction where he's he had a 6-figure job. So it's no small feat to replace that. And he's, I'd say he's well over halfway there in like just a few months because he started to think of himself as an authority. Mm-hmm. And if I would go back over 10 years, I used to coach hundreds of people back in affiliate market. I helped a 96-year-old woman build, for real, she lived in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I'm actually sad to say I don't remember her name. This was literally like 2010. Yeah. But I never forgot. It was a 96-year-old woman in Wilmington, North Carolina. And back then, I still did private coaching with my product sales. And I helped her build a blog. I helped her populate the blog with content. I helped her pepper the content with links. And I helped her actually replace, or not replace, but essentially double what she made from Social Security with blog income at 96 years old.
I cannot believe you've never told me that story.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's because I used to be more hands-on like 6-7 years ago and beyond. I'd have to like dig through my archives, but they're in there. I mean, I helped a guy leave his job as a pharmaceutical sales rep. Guy makes $1 million a year now, running doing digital agency, Facebook ad services. Plus, he sells his own courses on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Makes $1 million a year. Used to go door to door lugging a suitcase of pill samples.
It's amazing. Yeah,
it's all out there for people. So anyway, I mean, all that to say, I like that. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You talk about doing the hard work and how you enroll people. By the way, if anybody's trying to build a company, this is huge. And I'm going through right now the biggest and best experience I've ever had of rapidly scaling a company. Mm-hmm. So this may seem a little ahead of where a lot of people maybe think of themselves. Like if somebody had been talking to you about how to train, you know, your 15th and your 20th team member on your team 2 years ago, you would have been like, dude, I don't have a team. I'm a team of one right now. Right. But there's principles to extract. And so I'm in the process right now of scaling my company kind of past the 50 employee mark. And we've gone up. I mean, our company's grown 1,200% in 5 months. So it's ridiculous hockey stick growth curve, right? When you're scaling that fast, you have to have like principles and values to attach people to, because it's going to take them a while to get a hang of the processes.
Right.
And so they have to come in and immediately feel like connected to something even before they have competence at the job. And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And so what you're saying is you're bringing people into this team, and like they may still be terrified the first 50 times they go out and knock doors, but you've got them bought into some principles and values and really a mission that will sustain them through those hard things, right?
Oh my gosh. And it's the same thing you do. We have to coach them and keep them accountable. I've got a knack for finding people who want to work hard, and they've got that drive and that chutzpah to get out there and do it. But at least for our business, I don't know how you can relate it to yours, but I'm sure it's got to be a similar deal. We do a lot of hands-on where they'll shadow me, and then I'll watch them and I'll critique them. And it's just, man, we're basically taking our agents from literally someone that got a license, went to one of the big brokers, and then did nothing, literally nothing, hosted one open house, got some lady's phone number one time. And we're plugging them into a system where we position them as the farm area expert. They know whatever the neighborhood is, the schools, the principal, the average price per square foot, based on the year things were built. Like, they know something backwards and forwards. Right. And they know scripts on how to talk to people. And then it's just reps. I mean, I heard a lot of gurus talk about in sales getting your reps in, but as long as you've got the model and the paradigm kind of set up for them, you got to get your reps in. There's no replacement for it. Yeah. Now, I remember when you started doing video walkthroughs. I remember you kind of had like a moment when because I obviously, as your friend, I just kind of watch your stuff and watch what you're up to. And suddenly it was like, oh, Rob's doing these video walkthroughs. Like, you hired a good video guy to come and you basically toured the house, but it wasn't like one of those cheesy virtual tours. It was literally you walking them through like a showing. Yeah, because it's such a no-brainer. You're trying to build notoriety for yourself. At first it was me, but now my focus is doing that for my agents. I want them to be rock star listing agents. In this business, but you run around buyers, and that's a time suck and it's hard. Listings is how you really crush it. How you can have a 40-hour work week and make surgeon money or whatever. Right. So yeah, I'm using the video to position them so they're building like their own brand so people can recognize them, and they're likable and they want to hire them to list their own house. Yeah. Benefit. So you're bringing people in to say, okay, first of all, we're going to get you on video, which is scary for a lot of people. Yeah. And you're going to knock doors, which is like, oh my gosh, frankly, the epitome of a gritty sales gig. I mean, it's like what college kids go off and do in the summer, selling pest control or something, right? Exactly. They knock on doors. So something else that's just a grind that's so low tech, but it's amazing. We combine the high tech follow up with the low tech stuff. Is they'll do handwritten letters. So literally, we have this down. We know how many letters someone can write without losing their mind or getting carpal tunnel syndrome. So, and with everything's very authentic. Like, let's say someone wants to buy a house, that backs up to the pond, like where I am or whatever, something kind of real niche on the golf course. So they'll go through and they'll write each of those people a handwritten letter, and it takes about at the beginning 5 minutes, and then later 3 minutes. And they'll sit there and watch a movie every night and do that. And man, like it's not so much about me. It's so funny. I was just talking to one of my agents, Ashley, about this. And she's like, I got to keep reminding myself, because this is so mundane and it sucks so bad. I got to remind myself what it was like clocking in for work. Because I would punch in and I'd work 40 hours, and that was just as mundane. But the difference is I'm building my own real estate. She's building her own real estate empire, where someday she can make $500,000 a year, literally. And she's not working for $15 an hour for the optometrist or whatever, so he can have the big fancy house.
Isn't it crazy? I mean, it's funny. I do these, like I said, I've done dozens of these interviews now. At this point, all we're really doing is changing out the dressing and the context of the same messages. I mean, I swear it's always the same messages in these conversations, and I never plan it. It just always goes there. It's like hard work, discipline, drive, vision, purpose, thinking long-term.
Simple, but not easy.
Simple, but not easy. Yeah. You could literally sum up the entire Millionaire Secrets oeuvre of wisdom by just saying it's all simple and none of it's easy.
When I interview them, like, so what's like, here's how the system works. It's not a secret, but they're never going to do it.
So it's almost like you have that same kind of IP that in a way I do, where it's like, there's no secret. There's no mystery to what you do. It's the hard part is becoming or being the person that will actually do it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's so well said. And I wasn't even thinking about that, but that you just hit the nail on the head. I'm going to remember that and use that when I'm with my coaching. That's the hard part, is becoming that person, like being the person who's willing to just like give into the habit. It's so, I mean, think of, not to be like the meathead thing again, but just with sports and like people who become champions. Like I grew up, you know this, I mean, Jeff's you've hung out with George Foreman, world heavyweight champion at age 44 or something crazy. Good friend of my family's. Like the work ethic that these people have to do the mundane stuff over and over again. Like it's not like go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, get up at 5 every morning, like put in the miles, do the work. It's so much drudgery, but the payoff is so beautiful. Being like an independent person who's wealthy and calling your own shots.
Yeah.
And business that you can sell someday. Like like the businesses you teach people how to build, they can sell it for 3 or 4 times net, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, I sold my agency in 2018. I exited.
Yeah.
It was like, and I didn't have to split it with my investor partners or my Series A, B, and C VC money guys. Like it was just my baby, and I sold it after 6 years. And to the point. And what's funny is that video you reference, where I like went on my rant and I had my little like breakdown on like my Jerry Maguire freak out.
Put a link on something so people watching this can see that, please.
Yeah. I mean, so if you go on my Facebook page and you just type in the search bar, "Let's Get Extreme."
Oh yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's it. It's right there. I'm driving and you can see how far I've come. Like there's no thumbnail. The captions are like that super like monotype, ugly caption, like a kid, install the caption plugin in his basic video editor or something. But that's how it all began. But if somebody comes to me and they're like, "Well, Jeff, I want to start a multiple 8-figure per year education company for free, just producing online content." I'm like, "Sweet, I'll tell you what to do."
Yeah.
Like, there's no secret. By the way, it's all documented on my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. And if you go pull up the Facebook ads library, you can see every Facebook ad I've ever run. You can see the evolution of the whole business. I don't even have the ability to keep secrets because it all happens right there on the web. But there's one X factor that I don't really worry too much. And here's the thing, man, somebody else does it, I'll be the first person cheering for them because I know how freaking hard it is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Navy SEALs begrudge each other. I don't think LeBron James and Kobe Bryant were jealous of each other. And I'm not saying, I'm not comparing myself to those guys in what they do, but
points that they know how hard the grind is.
Yeah. Exactly. You know what I mean, for you, like, I mean, you're not like jealous. Would you be jealous if one of your agents like actually grew their business bigger than yours?
No. I mean, I actually tell them, I'm like, "Hey guys, the only way I actually make more than you is if I have this many people on the team."
Right.
Like the goal is for us all to be, kicking it back on our second homes.
Yeah. So, that's awesome, man. Well, I just got to say, I'm so just excited about what you're doing. Can I tell people about our like weird bet that not a bet. It was like a trade-off we made one time.
It sounds like,
I don't know if it was about $10 million. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, if either one of us ever makes $10 million, we have to give the other person $1 million.
So much money just to give you.
And we were so dumb and naive when we said it. Like, neither one of us had like $1,000 to our name. But it's interesting that, man, it's almost like we both always kind of knew, because the reality is, I don't think either one of us, I mean, we could swap, if we end up, we'll have some ceremony where we'll swap $1 million. I'll give it to you and you'll give me yours and it'll be fun. But like,
that'd be so awesome.
we actually really need to do that. I mean, now we're probably trending into being slightly douchey with this conversation, but
yeah,
I don't know. Anyways, this has been amazing. So the one question you mentioned, time blocking, that's actually the last loop I want to close before we close. We got just a few minutes. Tell me about, as you made this transition from beginner trying to figure it out to like having super dialed. And I know, because I've been on the phone with you, I've been privy to like your thought process along the way. And I've noticed this like honing and just consistent ratcheting up of discipline, but I want to hear it from you. Like, tell me about your time efficiency and what's happened in the last few years.
The biggest thing that's going to get an entrepreneur, your people, my people, all entrepreneurs, is you're not punching that clock for somebody else. That's why people have these lame jobs that they hate, is because they can just show up and then, and then veg out and just, be the cog in the wheel. So the thing that we all have to get over, and it's still a battle with you, with me, with all of us, the thing, like daily, you've got to take your time blocking as seriously as if you're going to get fired if you don't show up. So especially if you're like working from home nowadays with kids, and like, I've got to, like, I'm not a jerk, but I've got to make a very definitive, proclamation with the household and with myself and everything. Put the phone on do not disturb, whatever you need to be doing for that amount of time. Like, you got to do that come hell or high water. And then if you stick to your time blocking, whatever your hustle is if you stick to your time blocking and it's not working, and that's why you need someone like, maybe you can't be someone's coach, but like the coaches that work in your organization, they're the ones that can hold it. For now, I'm small enough, I can keep my people accountable with their time blocking. But that's the biggest thing, is these people have to stay focused. And I mean, it's just like with, my kids and everyone looking at Facebook and the scroll and everything, dude, people get such a little amount of work done. So, I mean, you can tell I'm getting worked up about time blocking, but that's the whole frigging thing. If you organize your time, and the funny thing is, this is a big point I want to make. A lot of people feel like they're working 60 or 70 hours a week. And I don't just mean like they're being kind of inefficient with task interruption or whatever, but they're really working 30 hours a week, 40 hours a week. And I mean, including all the time they spend wasting on switch tasking. Time block, stick with it no matter what. And you'll realize that, like, my agents can be insanely successful, legitimately working strictly 40 hours and nothing more. He is, in the entrepreneurial world, is getting people to actually put in 40 hours of true entrepreneurial work.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think people got to realize. Entrepreneurial work isn't like job work.
No.
You do 40 hours of frankly, what we both do pretty well at this point. You're wiped out, man. You're not hanging out late. You're not going out for beers with your coworker. Not that we really have coworkers to going out for beers, but I mean, you're just done. I just want to be with my family. I use an app called Horo, Horo, which is, by the way, a horrible name, but Horo. And I have these, if I could turn my camera, you can see I have the 25-minute default setting on there that literally every 30 minutes I hit it. And I do not, and I won't say I do this every 30 minutes of the day. I have a lot, like these interviews and stuff, but I try to have at least a few hours every day where I can stack up like 5 or 6 blocks of 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. And for that 25, you treat it like it's your entire 40-hour work week. Like you said, you're going to get fired if you don't clock in, work, and clock out every 25 minutes.
And tell our audience here about how horrible switch tasking is, or task switching, whatever it's called.
Yeah, task switching. Oh, I mean, it's contextual switching. I forget what the stat is, but I mean, it takes the brain like 20 minutes to reset and get into a different neural groove when you change from one thing to another.
It was
checking your email. If you're working on copy and you pop over to check your email, you toast like a whole hour of productivity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I mean, you remember when I got started, remember when I started playing the piano? Yeah. Nobody, I talk about being a pianist, and I think a lot of people don't understand what I mean. When I started playing the piano when I was 17, I don't remember if you came, do you remember coming to my house and I had that big giant chart of like every key, every scale, major, minor, melodic minor, harmonic minor, every mode, every chord. And I would literally break my chunk. I'd have like 4 hours of practice time, and I would have it broken into 5, 10, and 15 minute different intervals.
Yeah.
And, I guess you're not a musician. You probably are like, I don't know what Jeff is into. He's completely lost his mind.
No,
so what?
I have a lot of appreciation, and anyone watching you should have a ton of appreciation for that, because that's true. Like, you became a legitimate professional piano player, like someone who is worthy of being hired by bands and then can just riff or do whatever you want, starting at age 17. That's got to be unheard of.
Yeah, it was pretty rare, but it was that, and this is, I think, what's propelled me to do a lot of other things, is that I started my career, my grown-up career, with this massive fear that I was so far behind. Most people enter the workforce at 18 or 22 or 26, or, if they go to grad school or whatever, and they're right on track with where they're expected to be.
Yeah.
But when I made the decision that I wanted to be a professional musician, to be a serious piano player, serious pianists started when they were like 5.
Yeah.
So when I was at the age where most people are entering the workforce feeling like they're on track, I started feeling like I was 12 years behind.
Yeah.
And I've been playing from behind ever since. And I think that unreasonable, frankly, exhausting sense of urgency, because I actually was so far behind, is probably responsible for 90% of what I've done well.
Yeah. Well, and not to just keep, patting you on the back, but when you got into internet marketing, you were like people who just stumble upon you right now, where you're like the guy sitting there, how do I make money from home? I'm smart and I've got a laptop. What can I do?
And I was $500,000 in debt.
Yeah. $500,000 in debt. It's a cool backstory for marketing purposes, but this is so real. Like, you were overweight and you were staying up all night. You would stay up all night, just like staring at the blue screen, trying to figure out what the best operating system is. How do I do this? Right. So, and I think what you're doing now is like, you want a shortcut for people. Like, you want to save the old Jeff, like the Jeff that was whatever it was 12 years ago or whatever. Like, you want to pick them up, shake them, show them what to do, open their eyes, and like celebrate their success. That's what you're doing.
And I would say for you, you didn't come into real estate as like a 22-year-old girl who just, wrapped up playing some college soccer, and now you're going to go do this like cool thing. You were married. You had 2 kids. You had ground it out for how long did you own the gym?
I sold my gym. I'll have a gym for like 7 years, worked my tail off, dusted on, and so broke, working so many hours and so broke. Like, this is the pull back the curtain, like, stuff I can get emotional about. It's like when you're 39 years old, having to ask your parents for like a loan, like a loan that, they're probably just going to forgive, and let you slide. Like, that's the worst. That's so humiliating.
Yeah.
So like, you talk about, like, I had nothing. Well, when I got into real estate, I got one kind of hand me deal for a client that essentially felt sorry for me. So I got a referral fee. And luckily I could use that to like survive for the next like 2 or 3 months, but I had nothing. So that's why I'm so passionate about the time blocking. Like, the fear, like, and you watch, you and I both study other, like this whole podcast, this YouTube, like, we're studying other people's success. When you drill down on the people who are billionaires and like to have what you and I are shooting for, they all have some weird like baggage where something happened where they've got this fear motivating them. And that's why I tell my wife with our kids, I'm like, I don't really have this awesome desire to make their lives super comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know what it looks like to have some sort of like healthy amount of trauma, but man, you got to tap into whatever your weird baggage is that motivates you and your fear. And I guess that's what it takes when you're like not self-made person, but when you're an entrepreneur, like dictating your own schedule, there's something that's got to make you focus.
I mean, we're mining our backstory here pretty hard. I mean, you mentioned the school we went to. We grew up around kids who later became adults who never were really allowed to have hard times. We grew up around a lot of rich kids, and some of them were never pushed out of the nest. And those are some of the most debilitated people I know.
And even the ones that are like checking the box and now they're making their $200,000 a year because they've done everything right. Now they're 40 or whatever.
Yeah. They got into Vanderbilt and then they went to work at Deloitte and Touche and now, good gigs, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's cool. Like I don't want to diss that, but man, I love my life. Like I love the idea of having my back up against the wall. And then like, I had no knowledge about real estate at all. I just knew like, okay, there's a really low barrier to entry here. Like there's a low barrier to entry to being an internet entrepreneur. Like,
right.
It's not, like you can have a heartbeat and get your real estate license as long as you can sit there in class and regurgitate some stupid, like.
For the right, I think you said heartbeat. It sounded like herpes.
If you have herpes, you can be a real. I've seen some of the lips in that class.
Yeah, exactly. Not to interrupt.
From not eating food. But anyway, yeah, I don't even know what tangent I'm on at this point, but
there's low barriers to entry. Your back was against the wall. You were probably you're hitting up your parents for money. So frankly, you're at that point you're afraid. Not afraid for your life, but afraid for the future of your life.
Yeah. You want, like you and I have always wanted to be something special, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest thing about thinking big is big dreams create big disappointments if they're not realized.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think another skill that a lot of good entrepreneurs have that you and I definitely have is like being the eternal optimist. Like you've got, or that unfounded sense of confidence or something.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, if you're an entrepreneur watching this, like, you need to realize, like, no matter, like, if you are just willing to do something as simple as time block and just do the system, like do what you say, Jeff, or do what I say, people on my team, just follow the frigging system and wait and see where you are in 6 months.
Yeah. And what I hope that, for people that are like regular listeners of my show, I hope it's starting to emerge because this was a big exercise for me. Like I didn't say I'm going to be a professional podcaster. This podcast has been about networking. It's been about building relationships for me. I've had some cool opportunities grow out of it to like do partnerships and JVs with people, joint ventures. But for me, it's fundamentally about just extracting wisdom. I want to test my theories against a lot of other really smart, successful people and see what holds, see what needs to change. But it's starting to get really, really simple. When Rob's talking about the system, it's Rob, it's not your system. And it's not my system. I mean, get up early, go 1% further than anyone else you know is willing to go. And then, go 1% further and then consider stopping, but actually go 1% further again. And then just like that, giving it those slight edge, always going for that slight edge, being super regimented with your time, being disciplined, saying no to 90% of the things out there that could lead you down a rabbit hole of distraction. Like these are not proprietary systems.
Yeah. Let me throw in one caveat because I think there's people gleaning a lot from this right now is make sure the system you're plugging yourself into, my system, your system, or some other system out there, do your homework and make sure it's not that $50,000 a year system.
Ooh.
Make sure it's a system that's going to allow you to legitimately build, like ideally an entity that you can sell later, but something where you can actually build wealth. Because that was the mistake I made. I was working hard and I was smart when I had the gym, but it was inherently flawed. The E-Myth, Gerber.
Michael Gerber.
If you're a small business owner, that's a great thing to read or listen to. But it's the basic premise, or one of the premises of it, like the big thesis of it, is do your homework and make sure the business model is right. Like it actually works. I worked so hard on that stupid gym, so many hours, and I would look back and be like, oh my gosh, I'm making $6, an hour, $12 an hour or something.
Right. I'm reading a book right now I've listened. I always have like a couple, like usually 2 or 3 books I listen to at the gym and kind of bounce around because I have ADD and I can't just pick one thing. But anyway, I'm listening to a book called the Bezos Letters right now. That's and I actually had the author of the Bezos Letters on my show like several weeks ago, and that's why I started listening to it. And it's an analysis of all the shareholder letters from Jeff Bezos, like the first 21 shareholder letters. Probably the biggest takeaway I've had so far is that Amazon and Bezos has a very specific calculus that he applies to all of his decision making at Amazon that's called return on risk. And we always hear about return on investment. You know, as marketers, we talk about return on ad spend. We talk, as in real estate, you talk about your internal rate of return. But I'd never heard anybody really obsess and treat return on risk as like a true, you know, KPI metric of their business. Because risk is always something that you're always either trying to like, you know, mitigate or accept, but he measures. And to him, there are risks that are worth taking if they generate sufficient return, but they're not worth taking if they don't. And usually people are like very black and white about certain types of risks.
Yeah.
And to me, it's what you're saying. If you're going to take the risk
oh my gosh, yeah,
of starting a business, do it in a business where you can make $1 million a year, not 50,000.
Yeah. 100%. I want to like finish with one thought for your audience.
Cool.
And you might have to edit this out because I'm naming names, but like Jeff is the new Grant Cardone for smart people. If you can,
I'll probably leave this in, but I really want you to explain what you mean.
All the hype, all the hyperbole, you know, all the stuff that's like, there's so many truisms coming from Grant Cardone and people like him. But first of all, your back end business model is very, very similar. You have much of the same thing, but I think that, I don't know, like I don't want to, it's not a big, I don't want to knock anybody else down, but I think, I just think it's,
I'm giving you permission to fully say whatever you're feeling or thinking right now.
Okay. He's just like, he appeal, like people like that appeal to the masses, like these internet marketing personality types. And the cool thing about you and watching you develop is you are one of these guys now. And people might not recognize that with you yet, but I know your back end numbers. Like we're buddies. I know what Jeff's actually doing. Jeff is actually, you are actually on par with these guys. You're nipping on their heels, but what you're doing is so much better. It's like, it's not the hyperbole nonsense BS. Like just to pick on him a little bit, go back and watch him 15 years ago. And he talks like a Southern guy or something. And now he kind of talks like, you know, a little bit of like a twang. Like, I mean, like, so calculating, so cheesy, kind of creepy. Like Jeff is a frigging self-made, you know, uber successful millionaire genius. And you're telling people exactly how it is. And you're pulling back the curtain on all that BS. So I guess the high IQ part thing is like, some people are just, you know, smoke and mirrors and salesmanship. And they're like, no, man, you got to have passive income if you want to do it right. You know, like, look at my G-Wagon, my Rolex. And like, I guess you should do the same stuff. You roll around in your Tesla and, you know, have a beautiful house and beautiful wife and all that stuff. But I think you're doing it on a so much more authentic high level where you're just really telling people how it is. So I think at your core, you know, maybe someday, you know, this one guru has 7 million followers who all, you know, are just low entry customers for this guy. And the average follower of these other marketers probably doesn't do crap. I think you're like the higher level, bigger, you know, internet version of me, where it's like your tribe might be 500,000, but I bet the average person in your tribe is either going to hate your guts or they're going to make over 200 or 300 grand a year. They're either going to get sick of you telling them how to really do it, or they're going to do it.
Well, I first of all, I take that as a pretty big compliment and I appreciate it. I definitely, while you were talking earlier, I was thinking, you know, I actually really would rather talk about business and a way of doing business and frankly, just a way of being in the world that only the best 5% or 2% or 10% or whatever would achieve. But the ones that would achieve it would say, I'm really grateful that Jeff told me how it was. And I have exactly the life I want. as opposed to 70% of people can achieve it, but all of them are going to hit a cap and go, this isn't really what I wanted. And it was never quite what I was sold, which is like the $50,000 business model that you were talking about.
How many people are watching to hashtag hustle gurus, talk about put yourself on social media, and they're starting t-shirt companies, and there's not enough for people to make t-shirt companies. You know what I mean? Like, come on. The people connect with their enthusiasm and the broad appeal of, I'm sure you know exactly who I'm referencing now. It's not what's his face.
Right.
But anyway, like, yeah, dude, like you've got everything, but that they've got, and you've got the substance. So,
well, I'm happy to end on that note, man. I appreciate it. That was beautiful. And most importantly to me, it is kick ass what you're doing with, because, listen, I mean, you're training residential realtors, like potentially, maybe, I don't know, there's Keller Williams and there's Lord and Lord, or like, I don't know, whatever. Maybe you'll have 600,000 agents, but at the end of the day, if you help 20 people support their families at a really high level, and then it becomes 30, like, it's not about, like you just said, it's not about the gross numbers. It's about the quality of the outcomes.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is there aren't really any other real estate team leaders that I see who are actually helping any one person. They're just creating a system where, as you put it, 76 out of 77 people are going to come in and stub their toe, and one person who has some undisclosed qualitative advantages coming into the system might actually find a group.
Right.
So, dude, beautiful, man. It's great. It's great. I mean, like you said, we have these conversations all the time. I'm glad we got to record one.
Yeah. This is real.
So I know you're not a big, like, social media, I guess you are. If people are in Dallas and they want to learn about the real estate market, they should totally follow you. Let's assume everybody's in Dallas looking to buy a home. Where should they go?
They should just Google Rob Lord Realty Group, and they'll see us on Google or whatever. And they'll be piped into it'll either literally come to my phone, or it'll be directed to our office phone, which I will get the message or whatever. So
cool. Do you have a social media presence that's worth tracking, or is that just going to make you feel like you have a bunch of new?
Yeah, the reason I need to have a better social media presence is for my agent recruiting.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the presence that people could track later, not for now, is my agents. So my whole thing is positioning them like rock stars.
Cool. All right. Well, dude, this has been fun. I look forward to our next conversation.
All right, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for being on Millionaire Secrets, and everybody out there, take care. Thank you for watching Millionaire Secrets. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and leave us a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you know whenever we release a new episode. Also, if you want to learn the fastest way to become a millionaire in the new economy, click the link in the description below to claim your free copy of my book, The Millionaire Shortcut. And don't forget, Millionaire Secrets is available on all the major podcast platforms as well. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you can listen on the go. Thanks for watching.